We want to turn back to Sri Lanka now. Liz Palmer is available to talk to us. The death toll there is rising. ISIS has claimed responsibility for the attacks, but there's no evidence of that just yet. Liz is in the capital of Colombo. She joins us shortly, but take a look at her report first.
This is security camera video obtained by local media. They say it shows the bomber with his backpack pausing to pat a child as he approached St. Sebastian Church. He enters by a side door, walks between the pews, and moments later commits mass murder. In an instant, more than 100 worshippers lay dying or dead. The Sri Lankan government believes 2 domestic Islamist groups were responsible for the blasts. It's admitted that security services here had received foreign intelligence warnings that terrorists might attack churches. But the Prime Minister and his cabinet weren't told due to a political power struggle with Sri Lanka's president. Today the country was in mourning, and shopkeepers in the Muslim area of Colombo closed their stores and hung white banners as a mark of respect. But with Sri Lanka's history of interreligious violence, Sharif Mahbub told us there's an undercurrent of fear.
It's not going to end easily.
What do you mean by that?
They will ruin Mother Sri Lanka. We are at the moment, we are in a bad crisis.
We saw it ourselves yesterday when a mob battled police near one of the bombed churches, trying to get their hands on a man they summarily decided was a terrorist. After a second night of curfew, Sri Lankans observed 3 minutes of silence today for the victims of the Easter Sunday massacre as the investigation into who planned it and why moved into high gear. And families in this island's tight-knit Roman Catholic communities buried their loved ones. In Negombo, an entire new graveyard had to be dug. There were so many victims.
Liz Palmer is now in Negombo talking to us live. Liz, what, other than the graves that we saw, how far is Negombo from Colombo? What's happening there?
It's about an hour's drive. It's a biggish town, and largely a Roman Catholic town. This is where the most deadly bomb went off in the local church, and it has ripped the community to bits, as you can imagine. Very tight-knit. And we've stood here today and seen funeral procession after funeral procession, mothers, fathers, little children. In that church on Easter morning, there was a youth choir singing, and it's believed that every single one of those kids was killed.
Talk to us about the claim from the Minister of Defense that the bombings may have been retaliation to the mosques attacks in New Zealand that happened in March.
He said this publicly, but he hasn't presented any evidence to back it up. It may just be a theory. We've tried to get a comment. They're being tight-lipped. But the remarkable thing is how people here are desperate to find a reason for this senseless atrocity. And so his words are viral. You know, people keep showing it to me on social media on their phones. I think it's something they're grasping at to make sense of something that's just beyond absurd and cruel.
You mentioned social media. Initially after the attack, social media sites like Facebook and WhatsApp were blocked. Are people now able to use them?
No, generally not. But there's a difference. So I can use my phone here. International SIM cards aren't blocked. Local Sri Lankans can't use a lot of the messaging apps. Instagram, for example, Facebook is down, and so on. However, the young people here are as savvy as young people everywhere, and many of them have VPNs, which allows them to do an end run against the government's blockage. But by and large, what the government wanted to do was stop false rumors spreading like wildfire that would spark violence. And in that sense, it may have worked, although it's a double-edged sword, of course. And the one thing Sri Lankans can't do now is communicate with one another, to offer comfort, to say they're safe, to tell what their families, what their travel arrangements are. They really feel very isolated at a time when community is so important.
What can you tell us about the Americans? We're hearing that 4 may have been killed, maybe others injured.
Yes, we know a man from Denver was killed. He was here on a business trip, very excited to be reunited with some Sri Lankan colleagues he was working with on a project. And a young boy, a 5th grader from the Washington area. We haven't got names of the other 2 who are confirmed, but the Ministry of Tourism has said again that some bodies remain identified. So that figure of 4 Americans may yet rise.
Liz, you've covered so many terror attacks, so many natural disasters, so many major stories in our world. Is there something that makes this one different?
I think that Sri Lanka had such a terrible war, and it ended 10 years ago, and they've gradually been rebuilding, you know, and one part of that was making a tourist destination out of this place, and they've really gone out of their way to get infrastructure set up to make their national parks attractive, and it was working. You know, that money was flowing in, people were coming here to this beautiful place and spending their money and helping the local economy. So this has been a devastating blow for an island that was really trying to put itself back together after an enormous trauma. And people are afraid not only that there may be more bombs out there, because those rumors are running around too, but also that their future has now, you know, been ruined.
Liz Palmer in Sri Lanka on what is a national day of mourning. Liz, thank you very much.